Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining back in for another math lesson today. Today we're in our student reference guide. We're on lesson 11.3. It's kilograms and grams. You're going to need to pull out your student reference guide, page 42. You'll also need your math notes, a pencil, and an eraser. All right, so start out on page 42. Let's take a look at the, the vocabulary that we're going to need for this lesson. So at the top of page 42, it says kilogram, and you can abbreviate kilogram with a kg, and gram, which you can abbreviate with just the g. So when you see those abbreviations, if you forget what those are, you can go back to page 42 and they'll remind you. Okay, so the first one's an example because it says learn. So let's look at these examples together. Before we do that, I guess we should look at the lesson objectives. So we're going to read scales, and some of them are going to be in kilograms and some of them will be in grams. We're going to estimate, so we're not going to find an exact answer, but we're going to find a reasonable answer that's as close as we can when we estimate, and we'll find the actual answer too. And we'll find their masses on using different scales even. And then just like in previous lessons, we're going to convert units for measurement. All right, so let's look at that first example where it says learn. The heading says use grams to find the mass of items that are less than 1 kilogram. Okay, so that first little boy, there's a thought bubble coming out of his head, and he says the kilogram and gram are units of mass. Okay, so the first picture there, it says a bunch of grapes has a mass of 1 kilogram. So you can see on the scale goes 1 kilogram, 2 kilograms, 3 kilograms, 4, and you can see that the red arrow is at the first marking, 1 kilogram. And then she says a bunch of grapes has a mass of 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. That's probably information that we should write down in our math notes. I'm going to write it down too. And I'm going to use those abbreviations. 1 kg equals 1,000 grams. So here's what I wrote. You should probably have something similar in your math notes. All right, turn your page. Page 43. There's a little bit more of that example from the previous page where it says, Lewis uses the scale to find the mass of items that are light. His thought bubble says, use the scale to measure mass. Use the scale to measure mass 1 kilogram or less. Each small marking stands for another 10 kilograms. So he just told us that each small marking or tick mark stands for 10 grams. You notice that on that example, they only listed 250 grams, 500 grams, 750 grams, and 1 kilogram. So in between those markings, each little tick mark is 10 grams. All right, let's look. Oh, so the pencil case has a mass of 500. You can see that red arrow is pointing right straight down at 500. All right, guided learning. We're going to work through guided learning together. Number 1, it says to complete. It says the carrots have a mass of 600 grams. What is the mass of the pumpkin? Okay, so when you look at the carrots, now you can see that the arrow is past 500, but in between 500 and 750 grams. So that's where you need to figure out through guessing and checking what those little red tick marks are standing for. A good place to always start in your guess and check to see if a pattern works or not is to start out with 50s. It's just common to do those halves. So let's try that. 500, 550, 600 is where that arrow is pointing. So sure enough, it looks like that scale is counting by 50s. So now we need to figure out the mass of the pumpkin. So using that scale from 750, you're going to count on by 50 until you get to that red arrow. Go ahead and do that one on your own. See if you can figure out the answer before I give it to you. Okay, the big pumpkin, the mass of the pumpkin is 850 grams. If you got that, way to go. If you didn't, check back on that scale and see what you did wrong so that you don't make that same mistake on the next problem. And then turn your page, page 44. There's another example. It says learn. It says use kilograms to find the mass of items that are more than 1 kilogram. It says Celia uses the scale to find the mass of items that are heavier. She says use this scale to measure mass 4 kilograms or less. Each small marking or tick mark stands for another 100 grams. Okay, so this one, the scale's changed. Now it's 100 grams every time we get one of those little tick marks. So you can see on that example that that red arrow is straight down at 2 kilograms, and that is the mass of the watermelon in that example. Look at the bottom of page 44. The statement at the top says the cabbage has a mass of 1 kilogram, 500 grams. And the question is, what is the mass of the apples? So check that scale. You can see that it's past 2. It's before 2.5 though, and each little tick mark is 100 like the example stated. And so that's how they got the mass of the apples is 2 kilograms because it's past the 2 and 300 grams. So it's less than 3. Okay, turn your page. Now we're on page 45, a little bit more guided learning. Says read each scale to find the mass. Number 2, the mass of the apples is blank grams. Okay, try that one out for yourself before I give you the answer. Remember, you can always guess and check to figure out what is the marking scale on those little tick marks. Okay, so number 2 says the mass of the apples is 600 grams. Let's go on to number 3. Now those are vegetables. Now notice that the scale has changed slightly, and now you only have 1 kilogram and 2 kilograms. So you need to figure out, what do those tick marks between 0 and 1, what is the scale? What does each tick mark stand for or represent? Okay, that one, the mass of the vegetables is 800 grams. So that means that every tick mark from 0 up to that green arrow is 100. And there's 8 tick marks, so it's 800 grams. Number 4, this is a pineapple. This one's in grams. Okay, hopefully you were checking those tick marks to see what the scale is after 3 grams, or kilograms, excuse me. So the mass of the pineapple is 3,400 grams. All right, number 5, that's a watermelon, or they say a melon. The mass of the melon is, go ahead and look at that scale and see what those tick marks represent. You might have to do some guessing and checking a couple of times to see if you can figure out what that scale is. Okay, so number 5, the mass of the melon is 5,600 grams. Turn your page, page 46. Here's another example. This example says convert kilograms and grams to grams. Okay, so let's look at how they do that in this example, because we're going to have to do that on our own. So we want to make sure we understand the examples. The mass of a bag of potatoes is 1 kilogram, 250 grams. What is the mass of the bag of potatoes in grams? Okay, so you can see they took that 1 kilogram, 250 grams, they separated it out. So you've got your kilograms. We remember from the beginning of our lesson that 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So then we just have to deal with the other grams, which is 450. I'm sorry, I was looking at number 6, which is 250. So then you can take that 1,000 and that 250 and add those together. Hopefully you can do that one in your head. I'll give you just a second. The mass of the bag of potatoes is 1,250 grams. Okay, guided learning, complete number 6. So this is a problem for us to do based off of the example that we just went over. So this one has 8 kilograms, 450 grams. So remember, this one's number 6. I'll write this one down just to remind you how you're gonna kind of separate that out. So here's the problem, since we can't write in our book. Number 6, we've got our 8 kilograms, 405, did I copy that right? 405 grams. Okay, so now we're gonna separate the 8 kilograms, which would equal 8,000 grams. And then we'll take the 450 grams, and we don't have to do anything with that because we're converting to grams. So we'll just write those down. Here's what I've got so far. Hopefully you've got something similar in your math notes. So now I'm going to just add up everything that we've converted into grams. Oops, and then I totally did it again. I switched my 0 and my 5, but I caught it. So 8,405 grams. I did it again there too. I really wanted it to be 450 versus 405. Don't do what I did. All right, let's look at the bottom example on page 46. This one says learn, it says convert grams to kilograms and grams. So we went one way and now we're going to convert it back the other way. So the mass of a bag of coffee beans is 3,450 grams. What is the mass in kilograms and grams? So they took that 3,450 and they took those grams and they split it up. So you can see now that the mass of the bag of coffee beans is 3 kilograms, 450 grams. Okay. There's one more. Flip over to page 47. It's our last one on guided learning, and then it's going to be your turn to take over. So the last one says we've got 5,805 grams. And we want to convert it to kilograms and grams. So we're going to take that 5,805 and we're going to break that up. So we've got 5,000. And when we convert that, that goes down to 5 kilograms when we go from grams to kilograms. And then we've got our 805 grams. 805 grams. Okay, so here's what I have so far. All right, so then our final answer is where we went with these grams and we've switched them. We've converted them. Grams and 805 grams. So we took our original answer, 5,805 grams, and we converted it to 5 kilograms, 805 grams. All right, it is your turn. You're going to be working next on the Let's Practice. It's on page 47. It is number 1 through 12. I will show those answers in just a second. After you do the Let's Practice and you verify your answers through this video that you're on the right page, then you've got workbook pages to complete. From your math workbook, it's pages 31 to 34. I'm going to show answers to both. So here would be a good place to pause so that you can go figure out those answers on your own and then just come back to this video. Good luck. You can do it. Okay, here are the answers to the Let's Practice. Okay, and then I'll show you the answers for homework on 11.3. probably going to need to pause the video here. All right, we'll check back later for the next video lesson in math. It'll be 11.4. Have a good day.